Hey guys, Crystal Thompson here. Today I'm going to show you two ways to use your stamps to create backgrounds. First, we're going to be doing a beautiful repetitive stamping, and we're going to be using the amazing Woodland Whimsy stamp set along with some Copic markers, of course. And then for our second card, we're going to be using a piece of watercolor cardstock along with the watercolor pan that we got in our Simon Says Whimsy card kit from November 2019. And you're going to need some intense black premium dye ink for alcohol markers, and let's get started. Alright guys, so I have my images ready to go on the acrylic blocks, and then I have the three little berries and I have them arranged so it's easier to stamp them down. Then I'm going to protect my surface with a piece of printer paper, and what this is going to do is when we stamp on the outside of the lines, it's not going to damage our surface. So we're going to begin by stamping the sentiment. We are using the "You Are One of a Kind," which is totally true, and we're going to come in and place it on the upper center part of the cardstock. Do the best to keep it centered. If you have a hard time with that, be sure to use a stamp positioner such as the Misty or the Tim Holtz. And we're going to hold this so my cardstock absorbs that color. We're going to lift it, and now you have a beautiful crisp image. Now we're going to proceed to stamping our little critters. So I'm only going to be using 2 critters for this card. I was trying to keep it super quick and super simple. So we're going to add our little bunny. We're going to have the bunny kind of frame, his ears are going to frame that sentiment. And then we're going to come with the bear. And again, we're going to ink them up with the Simon Says Stamp Intense black stamp pad. And then we are going to come in on the other side. We're going to hold this guy right there. Then we're going to come in with the florals. And so if you choose to do your flowers individually, that is just fine as well for the process of this video. And to make them super quick and super easy, we are going to do it all at once. I'm going to continue inking up. And this is just a super easy way to do repetitive stamping to create backgrounds for your cards. And as you can see, I'm already getting onto the outer parts of my card, hence why we are protecting the surface. And depending on how much you want to color, you can space your images out a little further or a little more. We're going to have this guy kind of peeking in this way. And there are other critters on the stamp set. I just wanted to make it nice and fast. We're going to add him down here. He's a very zen-like bear. He's quite happy to be there. So we're going to continue. We're going to do our last batch of berries. Okay, so once that is stamped out, ready to go, we are ready to color this image. All right, so I have my bucket of Copics ready to go, but we're going to begin with N2, and this is going to do, we're going to add a shadow to the outer part of all the critters, and you can vary on what shade you want to do. You can even do brown, but since I am going to be doing brown for the images, I decided that we would stick with gray. So all this is going to do is kind of make them look like they're popping out, and it's going to make them look really fun and just give them more dimension to them. You don't have to stick exactly within the lines because we are going to color the interior of these images with Copics as well. All right, now that our image has been outlined, we're going to begin by doing the pink parts of the cards. We're going to do RV11 and R12. So we're going to use RV11, and when I'm coloring like this and making it super quick, I like to come in and add that pink to everything that I am using. So the RV11 is going to be for the noses, and it's going to be for the darker shadows of the little ears and of the bellies if it has a belly. So we're going to add that pink on the edge and let that kind of soak in there. And then we're just going to come in right here. We're going to add the darker. Then we're going to come in with R20, and we're gonna add the inner or the lighter parts of where we added that RV11. And again, super easy way to create backgrounds using your stamps. Okay. And now everybody has colorful ears and noses. Now we're just gonna add a little bit of blush using the R20. I'm just doing simple circles. Okay. And now we have these guys ready to go. You can come in and color your berries the same color and keeping it simple in regards to markers. So if you're traveling, this is an easy way to create cards, again, using your kit and not having to bring a ton of supplies. All right, now we're gonna begin to add color to the rest of our critters. All right, now we have our colors ready to go. So I have two sets for our critters. We have a lighter skinned little critter, and then we have a darker skinned little critter. So we're going to be using these 6 sets of markers to go and color. So we're going to begin with our darkest. This is going to be E15, and so we're going to have a dark bunny and a light bunny, and same concept with our bear. So we're going to color in the shadows first. As you can see, I had made a All right, so we added our shadows. We're gonna move on to the next color, which is in this case is E11. And we're just gonna grab that color and bring it towards the center because that's where the light is shining for us here. And so we're gonna follow the contours of the stamp set all the way through, and again kind of really focusing on the edges and not bringing quite the color all the way to the center just yet, because I really want it to look like the color or the light's right on it. So I'm gonna come in and just blend where I added that dark E15 color. And as you can see, it starts blending in. If you are quick about your coloring and follow through with the dark and then light, it'll blend a lot easier without having to really color in. But life happens, so we got to be able to find the tips and tricks when we can't color immediately. And again, if you're coloring in the car, if you're doing this, watching this tutorial in the car, it's totally doable. Right, so we're gonna finish coloring my bear, and we're gonna follow the same process for the bunny. Just gonna make it a super quick and easy, and then we're gonna come in a little bit later with our Copics and add some texture to these little guys, and it's just gonna give them that really pretty whimsical look. All right, now we're gonna come in with E02, which is really our lightest color. We're going to follow through, really focusing this color on the center of the bear. And it's all going to blend really nicely. Now we're going to move on to our next set of colors to do the other bears. All right, so for this one, we're going to take a little different approach. We're going to begin with our E50, which is the lightest color in the bunch of colors that we had selected, and we're just going to go ahead and color the entire image. So there's 2 ways of doing it: adding your shadows first and then coming in with your lightest color, or starting with your lightest color and then adding your shadows. I don't believe there's any wrong or right way to do it. It's all a matter of preference, and the reason I'm doing it both ways is so you could see the effects and what you decide you like the best. I find that by doing lighter color first and just having a solid coloring makes it much quicker, but you know, again, it's based on preference. So now that both of these little guys have the same solid color, I'm going to come in with the E50 and add shadows of the same color, so then it would make 2 layers of this color. We're going to cap that. We're going to move on to the next color, which is Y23, and it's just a slightly darker color, and we're going to add shadows to this. But don't put your other marker away, because this is where we blend a little bit more. gonna grab that color before it dries and dragging it out so it blends out or in, depending of where you're putting your color. And then last but not least, we're gonna add that darkest color, in this case being E31. And we're gonna add that to our little bunny. And now that you saw the little bunny, we're gonna repeat the process with a bear. All right, now that our both bears and sets of bunnies are ready to go, we can get ready and to start coloring the rest of the image. So for this, I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to bring in 2 greens. I'm going to start with YG07, just super bright, and YG95. We're going to blend those two. And then for our flowers, we're going to keep it nice and simple. We're going to use R20, which was our blush color. However, we're going to blend it with a really bright RV17. So I'm going to do 1 set of flowers, and then I'm going to go offline and do the rest, and that way you can see what the entire card looks like. And then for the cards that have a little bit of a centerpiece, we're going to use the Y08, and that's what we're going to begin with. We're going to add Y08 to the centers of our flowers. Then we're going to come in with the R20. And we're going to select this set just to show you what we're doing here. So we're going to color the petals, and I almost feel like these smaller flowers are a little more difficult to color, so maybe wait till your car is pulled over if you're doing it in the car, and that way you don't have any little misses. So we're going to add a little bit of a shadow with the RV17 and just doing the very tips, then coming back with that R20 and blending it all before it dries up. And it makes it look really pretty. Now we're going to repeat the process with the YG07. And we're going to add the YG07 to all of the leaves. And then of course we're going to come in with that darker YG95 to add the shadows. Okay, so we got YG95. And again, just adding some of this. So it doesn't have to be perfect. There doesn't have to be a ton of blending when you're doing this. It mostly is just to give it a little variation of color. I'm going to come back again with my RV17, and we're going to color those berries. And now you have a fully colored image, and now we're going to go ahead and do the rest of them. Okay, once it's fully colored, we are going to come in and add some little detail using RV17, which is a deep magenta. We're just going to add more little dots of different sizes, and all this is going to do is really going to tie in that really dark pink with the little berries, and it's just going to give it just a little bit of an embellishment. And then you don't have to come in and add anything else. It is ready to be shipped, and you're not having to pay extra postage because you have the little jewels or the little sequins. And it just ties it up all very nice, guys. And that does it. Thank you so much today for joining me. Stay tuned. I have the second card using stamps for backgrounds. All right, guys, we are going to begin with our second card, and we're going to be using, again, the beautiful Woodland Whimsy. You're going to need a piece of watercolor cardstock. Then we're going to be using our Simon Says Stamp Intense Black Ink and Dye Ink, and we're going to use this to watercolor. Yes, we are, and I'm going to show you how we're going to waterproof this ink. You're going to need, of course, the beautiful watercolor palette included in the Woodland Whimsy stamp set from the November kit. So let's get started. So I have my Love You and then one of the little leaves ready to go. So what we're going to stamp these images around as a border using the Simon Says Stamp ink. So we're going to be sure that we get a nice, clear, and crisp amount of ink onto it. We're going to place I Love You. We're going to flip our cardstock over, get some more of that ink, and stamp. And honestly, this doesn't have to be perfect, and the reason why is that it's going to be a repetitive stamping sentiment borders. And we're going to do one more. All right. So now you have I love you on all 4 sides. We're going to move on to grabbing our little burrow leaf. Oh, be careful to have enough room to stamp down. You want to be sure that you're nice and firm with your stamping, especially with watercolor cardstock, as it does tend to have texture and it can kind of make you miss some of the leaves stamped on it. So we're going to move on to the next one. And now we're going to repeat the process, except we're going to flip this down. And instead of flipping over your hand over and over and over, what you can do is actually just turn over your cardstock. So when you press down, just kind of hold it, don't rock it, or you'll kind of get a blotchy stamping. All right. And then we got one more. So you're wondering, how are we going to make this alcohol ink ready to be watercolor? Because as you know, that dye ink can be, depending on what it is, water soluble. It's going to run. So what we're going to do, we're going to have our card base ready to go. We're going to grab our heat tool. In this case, I'm using the Wagner tool, and I will link all my products down below. Turn it on, and then we're going to heat set the whole thing. And that's going to make sure that the cardstock really grabs that color and that ink, and it's going to cook it in a way. And just move around your gun so you don't actually end up burning or creating any brown spots on your cardstock, as that can be easily done. You will see the color change just a little bit. It's going to become a muted black as opposed to that crisp black. And that's when you know that it is ready to go. All right, now that that's ready to go, we are going to move on to doing our watercolors. So I have my palette of watercolors ready to go, and I'm going to grab a water spritzer or a water brush, whatever you have. So I'm going to move over here and grab my water brush, and we're just going to add some color. And so you can use the brushes included in your watercolor palette, or you can just create, or you can, you can use your brush that you have. And so we're going to do a very messy, very easy, loose watercolor. And I really like these paints that Simon has provided in the November kit. Okay. We're going to flicker all that extra color. That way we don't waste. You're going to grab a little baby wipe. And I wish I would have bought stock in these when we started having kids, because I would be a rich woman, right? The amount of baby wipes we go through is incredible. All right, we're going to grab a darker green, and we're going to do the leaves that we had missed earlier. Okay. And then we're going to flick that as well. And you're wondering, well, what are we going to do in that center? Well, in that center, guys, we are going to add one of the little critters that we are going to watercolor as well. But before we do that, we want to create this background and give it some drying time while we watercolor the critters. So as you can see, you saw stamping and you saw how we're going to make this process of making an alcohol ink watercolor friendly. And that's going to allow you to not to have a ton of stuff, a ton of different ink pads for all the different mediums that you want to use. So we're going to set this aside, we're going to let it dry, and then we're going to watercolor our little critter. All right, guys, so it is nice and dry and ready for image. So I actually chose to stamp the cute little fawn, little deer from the Woodland Whimsy stamp set. And I actually did it in the same process that we did this. We did it with the black ink, and then we heat set it. And now you only are using one ink for all these different mediums. So we're going to begin with, actually I'm going to clean this off. We are going to begin by grabbing the brown color. I wish these guys had a little name. We're going to call it the brown color. And it's gonna serve as our shadow. And so we're gonna add a very dark shadow of it. And because it is watercolor, it's gonna get activated with the water. So when we come in with our lighter shade, it's totally gonna kind of mellow out and lighten up. So we have that there. We're gonna move on to the lighter of that brown, calling this light brown. Very technical, guys, very technical around here. And we're just gonna grab that color and drag that color down towards the end of the fawn or the deer shape here. And we're just gonna grab it and drag all the way down. And what this is gonna do in regards to coloring and shadows, it's gonna make it look like the light's coming at it this way. And so it's just gonna be a super nice way to make it look kind of whimsical, yet we're utilizing the contents of the kit of the 2019 November card kit called the Woodland Whimsy. It's a beautiful stamp set, honestly. I've made many cards. I think this is my 8th card with it, and I haven't even touched the pattern paper with it. Just simple coloring supplies such as Copic, watercolors, and stamping, of course. And so I'm going to be sharing all the details on my blog, crystal-thompson.com, showing you how to make all this variation of cards without having to really use any other dies or any other supplies. And so I'm so excited to be doing some watercolor. And so if you didn't own any watercolors, now you have a very nice set of them. And the thing with watercolor is that you layer. That's what makes watercolor really fun, and it doesn't have to be super blended. All right, so we have our little font ready to go. Super easy, right? We're gonna grab a pink. I feel like we're gonna grab just a very light of this red, and I found that if I added water and then grab the color, it worked really well. So I'm gonna add that little pink nose, and we're gonna make this a girl, and that's gonna make the blush for her. So we're just gonna clean her off just a little bit. We don't make it too blushy. Now we're gonna grab some of this black, and so you can do black or you can do white when you're adding little details. So we're gonna add some of this black watercolor on the end of the fawn, and then we're gonna grab the white. We're gonna add a droplet of water, thicken this watercolor up, and we're gonna use this for the tip. This is gonna be a white tail fawn. How cool is that? We're even getting technical around here. So just add a little bit of pink to the ears, and if you feel that it's too blotchy, just add more water. Honestly, watercolor can be foolproof when it comes to coloring little critters. So we're gonna set that aside. You can dry it up. We're gonna shake it just a little bit, or you can come in with your heat gun and dry it up that way. Okay, while that dries, we're gonna cut up a little piece of foam adhesive, and this is double-sided foam adhesive. And I'm using my Tim Holtz little snippets that were included in the October card kit. So I hope you got that one. And if it's still available, go grab it. It's a different look. It's a more floral card kit, but it's super pretty, and the sentiments are really fun. Okay, we're gonna remove the backing of this foam adhesive. I think that's the hardest part. It's harder to pull the foam adhesive than it is to actually watercolor the image. And then we're gonna place the fawn on our card. Okay, now let me just clean this up just a bit. All right, there we go. We are going to place this over a cardstock. So this is the cardstock included in the 2019 Woodland Whimsy card kit. We're gonna add some of the Tombow flat double-sided adhesive to this. This is flat adhesive. You could easily do foam. I really wanna minimize the additional shipping cost by just doing the one layer. And if you don't wanna do any additional shipping costs, you could just do flat adhesive on that little deer. We're gonna center it, and we are done, guys. Super easy card, very easy, very light, whimsical, using the little fawn, I love you sentiment all around. And you can go in and add additional embellishments, but since we're only using the contents of the kits, we're gonna leave it right here. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed these quick tutorials Super easy. We got Copic, we got watercolor, both very whimsical, using the 2019 November Simon Says stamp Woodland Whimsy card kit. Be sure to click subscribe, like, and share if you enjoyed this tutorial. See ya!